I'd like to welcome everybody to our December 1st workshop meeting, Marlborough Township Board of Education. Cindy, would you please call the roll?
Good evening, everyone. Mrs. Dean.
Good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Barigu.
Here. Hello, Mr. Marshall.
You're throwing me off here.
No, they're really confusing the day like that of me. Mrs. Dean.
Here.
Mrs. Ennie's not here yet. Mrs. Lou Riddell.
Here.
Mr. Marshall.
Here.
Mrs. Matos.
Here.
Mrs. Bose, Mrs. Wolf.
Yes.
And Mr. Lalonsky.
Here. Please be advised this meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, the Sunshine Law. The adequate notice of the date, time, and agenda sent to Asbury Park Press and News Transcript has been posted and filed with the Marlborough Township Clerk. Copies have also been sent to each district school and other area newspapers according to the law. I'm going to draw your attention to, but I'm not going to read in its entirety, statement of videotaping of public portion of Board of Education meetings, public session statement, as well as no smoking on school grounds. Everybody please rise and join me for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Folks, at our last meeting on November 24th, a board member called another board member a disparaging name, which I will not repeat. As board president, I wish to express I am deeply troubled that such name-calling occurred during the course of a public meeting in front of members of the public and the viewing audience that watches our meetings at home. As board members, we can agree to disagree with each other as long as it's done in a civil and professional manner. Name-calling is never appropriate and is not the type of conduct I will condone under my leadership. Review of the agenda shows we'll have a public session, followed by a discussion on a wireless upgrade, followed by resolutions on personnel matters and policy development. I will have old business, new business, followed by a second public session. So at this time, I'll open up to the public. Open up to any item. Anyone from the public wish to address the board?
Hear from the public?
Seeing none, sir, wireless upgrade.
Okay, Tom, come on up. Okay, in the green notes, we put a few fun facts for you about the wireless upgrade. This all started back in a conversation, and I think it was around budget time.
Right. Exactly.
And what you asked us to do was to come back at a later date and talk about this, and to see how much E-rate funding we were eligible for.
Right.
So Tom has, Tom, why don't you just lay out to the board what we have going on, what you see happening, what you're afraid of happening, and go from there.
Okay. Well, like you said, last time I was here, we seemed to shelve it until we wanted to see what we got for E-rate. So we got our funding, which was a little over $90,000, 40% of what the job was called. So I figured what we did is I did a little write-up, sent it home, and I figured I'll talk a little bit about what we're encountering now with the current wireless. In the, I did mention in the elementary schools, we do have occasionally where the Samsung Chromebooks will connect to APs, a different AP than the one they should, the one in the classroom that connect down the hall.
Sorry.
Sometimes what causes that is we had to turn the power down on some of the APs to try and get the Chromebooks to stay where they should. One of the pluses of the AC APs is more of they have a thing called beamforming where they actually establish a connection to the device. Instead of the N, which is basically sends a signal out where they catch it, this actually has beamforming, and this should cure the issue that we're encountering in the elementary schools. In the middle schools, some of the things that we've noticed, the new Acer Chromebooks that we bought this past summer have the AC wireless cards built into them. And on the end APs, they want to connect to the 5 gig channel. They won't go on the 2.4, and we find that we do get some lag occasionally when we have too many on the one channel. The good thing about the AC technology is it is 5 gig, and it's 4 times faster and can handle a lot more connections. So I'm hoping that between those two, we'd be able to solve those two problems. I'm trying to be proactive on it. I mean, we're just starting to see these issues. None of them are earth-shattering, but they do exist, and I feel that they will continue to grow. So I feel that it was a good time to explore this last year at the budget, being that we just found out the federal government was going to provide E-rate refunds for this. And I know when I was at Texpo last year, talking to all the different districts that I get the chance to meet down there, they were all in the same boat that we are. They were all doing the same thing. They were all doing their bid specs for E-rate. They were all budgeting to upgrade to the AC if they hadn't done it already. So I was hoping that with the E-rate funding that we have, we would be able to move forward with the project. I did talk to an engineer today because I wanted to come up with a couple things just in case some questions came up. I know you always think, well, if we do this, what's going to be next? I'm going to come back in 2 years and say, oh, we need AX, is what they're talking about. Solid good for 5 years with AC. There is an AX coming, but that they say will not be standardized for at least another 3 years. So I feel comfortable saying if I come to you now, you might not see me come to you again for at least 5 years with the latest. At that point, it'll be 10 gig. And just to give you a quick overview of what I did since we last met, we did have the bid spec. We did posted it. We did. I did talk to many different companies who came. We saw many different types of access points from Aerohive to Aruba, the Maru, Ruckus, Extreme, Cisco. I walked every single school with an engineer looking for basically where the APs would go. We have any weak spots. So I feel like I've done this so many times that I could do it in my sleep. But I'm hoping that, a couple of points I want to point out too is cool thing about these new APs. One is controllerless, so it's less network traffic, but the really cool thing is the application visibility and the ability to filter at the AP level. Now, being able to look at the AP and not just see how many devices are connected, but to actually see who it is, to see where they're going, see how much data is being pulled, and to be able to filter. Standard sites such as Facebook for students, we don't allow it. Bang, I can hit it right at that AP, and that traffic never goes back to the web filter. It gets stopped right there. So a way of easing some of the load on the network, which I thought was a really cool feature. And any questions? Or
Using Dr. Hibbs' scale, 9, 3, and 1,
Fair question.
where would you say this falls?
Nine's
Are you familiar with
Nine.
Yes.
The best. Nine's the most important. Nine's the most
I
important.
apologize.
It's been a while since we did that one.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that if 3 is in the middle, that's where I want to be, because it's not an emergency. I'm not coming to you too late saying we have to do this because wireless is not working. But at the same time, it's not perfect. We do have I do monitor it every day. I do look to see if there's any problem, APs, too many devices connecting. Am I having slowness? So that's what I would say.
And if we wait on this, only because I'm not hearing emergent anywhere, what happens with this E-rate? Do we lose it?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, when we lose it, though, does that mean we would have to reapply?
Does it expire?
When does it
June
expire?
30th.
Next year, of this year.
2006.
2006, this
Yeah,
school
this
year.
budget.
And this is, look, there's just no guarantee that it will be there.
Right.
It could be,
Exactly.
it could not be.
We weren't even sure we were going to get this, to be honest.
No, when Tom and I sat down we were talking about the importance of this that Craig just asked to as well. And there's how he framed it is perfect, which is I'm coming to you now. I'm seeing a forecast of a problem because I don't none of us like spending roughly $100,000 ish on anything. It's a lot of money, but I want to applaud Tom's witness to say, look, it's not a 9 right now, because if it gets to be a 9, then Tom didn't do his job. And really, I mean, we don't want those 9s. And a really good example, and I won't tell you what district it was. Mr. Ballone literally was at one of his New Jersey Excel trainings, and there was a district that had to do 18 half days last year because their wireless just simply wasn't capable of handling what was asked of it. We don't want to be anywhere near that spot. So if it was a 9, I would be really upset that we allowed it to be a 9. And that's so it's not. It's
Right.
not. But we don't want it to be 1.
Right, exactly.
You good? That's fine.
Yeah, you mentioned that just talking about the technology. So one you have with the current capacity handle current network for the children to use the for the Chromebook, for other computer, laptop, the desktop. For the capacity, we are now reaching what's the capacity right now? Reaching now even the 60%, or what's the percentage? Carry out the traffic now.
Are we talking on the Wi-Fi network?
Yeah, covering the wireless network. If we don't do upgrading.
Well, it's hard for me to see on the controller exactly how much of the capacity that we're using on the Wi-Fi. I can do it by AP. I can do it by access point. I can look to see how much data is being pulled on certain access points. When I look at the controller overall, we're not in any trouble as far as the processing on the controller or the actual bandwidth. But I can look at specific APs and I can see that we're pushing a lot of data on certain ones because there's maybe more of a group of Chromebooks being online at the same time in certain areas. That maybe produce some of the lag. I think if I'm understanding this, if we see the lag at times, it's at the AP level. It's not having to do with the infrastructure itself.
Right.
I think it's more at the AP.
To the extent, yeah. Can you double check, make sure, because in the peak hours, say the student time during the school hours, they use the same time in the only for the 1 hour, say peak for in the AM section, PM section. What's the high? Peak, what's the highest capacity you can reach? So basically, you can monitoring the traffic, the access point, the traffic. The second concern, I think the implementation, as you mentioned, you do have, it's not only one, the router, for the access point wireless network. We pretty much, I'm sure this will be generic, general terms. You do have a backup. I would say, to catastrophic to wireless doesn't work. We still have the backup. Somehow works too. So I'm trying to make point that for the certain amount of money we probably need to reconsider if we need to upgrade this wireless network right now, or we can push out a little bit further. We have the new technology coming in for the E-rate, but we can upgrade that at that time. I just read the report you just mentioned. We did the upgrade 3 years ago. That's only 3 years time span or time frame we did the upgrade, right? If we propose in true.
3 years ago, we added access points to what we had existing.
Right. Then you current the proposal say if we add this wireless network, and there will be 5 years can sustain, right?
Right.
From my point that you say, we probably, given the budget, we have other one talking about the capital cost thing. We can maybe wait for the little bit. That's my concern, in terms of cost.
We might lose that.
Yeah.
The E-rate that we don't know about that. That's
You would. You would lose the
right, and we'd have to
already
apply.
budgeted for this.
Yeah.
Correct.
It's already in the budget for this
It's
year.
in the budget.
Yes.
The fear is the worst case that would happen is Tom sits in front of you 3 years from now, 2 years from now, and says, it's not working, kids can't get on, and then you've invested $1.4 million plus, it'll be plus at that point, into the tech that we have in Marlboro. To me, you want to ensure, because what children are doing now, look, if you go backwards in time 3 years, we're doing much different things now than we were doing 3 years ago. Accurate, sir?
Right.
And what the amount of data that you're pushing and pulling is totally different. That 3 years ago wasn't a full system reboot.
We added.
That's why I asked the question. The first question asked the capacity. How much traffic with the current peak hour, say the student.
What specifically are you looking for there, Joanne?
I was thinking we may not reach that capacity. I'm just asking, like in my house, right? We want to upgrade. Certainly, the faster the better. Just, is it the right time we need to upgrade based given the cost? That's what my concern, from our map was given the cost. That's my.
Tom's not telling you that we can't get the kids on the internet. What he's telling you is that he sees a blip and he's forecasting the fact that he thinks it's going to get worse. Will it get worse tomorrow, 2 months, a year from now? We're not telling you that because no one will know that.
Right.
What he's simply saying is that we have the opportunity to invest and to save 40% and to be good for 5 years. That's what he's really saying. But he's not saying that the kids can't get on, because the kids can get on. Kids absolutely can get on.
And
I know 3 years ago, we were not doing nearly as what the kids are doing now. And I want to stress, this is not park. This is every day that the kids are on in the classroom,
Yes.
all their lessons. It's the teachers, because I know they're being used throughout.
Yeah.
We heard the testimony of the mother last week, how they're being used
Yes.
so often in the class every day. So this is just all we did. I remember we just gave more
Fantastic.
access points
Right, we
because
added more access
we
points.
needed more access
Right.
points.
Yeah.
And I remember that was just to fix at that time because we were going to go on.
Right.
And truthfully, park caches. We cached the entire thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not as if that we were
Yeah, that,
nothing to do
it
with
was
that.
still on the Wi-Fi though. Every
But I
device
just
still
wanna
was on
say
the
this is
Wi-Fi. It
different.
just
I
didn't
don't
leave
want
the
them to think
district.
that we're
Yeah, we cached the
spending
test.
more 'cause
so.
it's testing.
And the Wi-
Yes.
It's
About
not
bandwidth.
that.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with we did not buy $1.4 million worth of tech for park. Did we have to solve a problem for kids testing? Yes, we did, but that's just doesn't even scratch the surface of what our teachers and kids are doing and
Right.
collaborating on.
And the Google Classroom is a big piece too that they're using more and more now, and that's more intensive than what they had been doing, say, even last year.
Right.
So there's a chance that it could, like, if say we don't do it, that then you come to us in 2 years and now there's no E-rate and now we're back possibly even more than the 226. That's
Right.
Now, Cindy, explain. This is budgeted already in our
Yes.
budget.
Right.
So
At
you're basically bringing it to
$293
us to tell us
To get an
93,000.
okay.
that
293,000. You're going to be.
Millions.
Okay.
Awesome.
I
Well, okay.
running in big number world today, so 293,000
Is what's budgeted.
Is what is budgeted. You have a bid that is 226,000, and with the E-rate, the bottom line is going to cost you net cost is going to be 135,000. So budgetarily, you have a savings of $157,000.
which will take us 5 years out. Can we get that
Yes.
in writing?
How about blood of firstborn?
No, I just wanted to confirm that that's how I read it. And our computers aren't acting slow, but we just need to forecast for the future, really.
I do start to hear teachers will say there's some lag at times.
Okay.
They have to refresh the
I
screen.
saw that in the middle school, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and even in elementary school, sometimes there'll be some, like I said, the APs, sometimes the Chromebooks let you connect to the
Go to
wrong
somebody
AP.
else's
And
AP.
I have to turn the power down a little bit in there. And even then, we do have lag. Sometimes they have to hit the refresh button. And I think it's just at the AP level. We're not maxing out any of the infrastructure that we built.
Right.
No.
But I think the APs now that, especially in the elementary schools, are pushing 5 years old. They just don't process as fast as the newer ones would.
And everyone,
When we replace the Chromebooks now, we're going to replace them with the Acer.
AC, everything's AC. Yeah, we can't buy it
As
without
you
it.
do that at the elementaries, won't that mean they will
Yes.
all run faster?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll run faster using the Samsungs on an AC,
Okay.
like 40% faster than what they are now. Even if it's not an AC device, they'll run faster.
great, thank you.
Cindy, if we use this money towards this, going on what Joanne was saying a minute ago, do we already foresee that we will maximize on our reserves?
For next,
Yeah,
you mean as in like
our maintenance reserves.
I couldn't begin to tell you that right now. I'll be able to tell you that probably January, February and stuff, but, it's based on what our budget is and what we have available, what I'm forecasting then. I don't do a forecast now because we're just settling into the year, et cetera, where we're at and everything.
What is the negative point of bringing this back to us in January, February, and not 2 years from now?
After you've heard our numbers?
After we see more numbers, just to make sure we have a nice big Band-Aid account.
You got limits on your Band-Aid account.
I know,
so-
I want to make sure we maximize on our limit, though.
Yeah, well, you're not going to get, I can tell you right now, there's no way you'd get money into the maintenance reserve that would hit your max of $4.2 million. We're not even there now with just the money we had. We didn't even start the year, we only had 3.2. So you're talking about putting money into that maintenance reserve. You could wait, there's no downside to waiting 2 months.
No.
3 months, there really is not.
And we weren't looking for an answer today anyway. It is really, honestly, it was, it's a dialogue. Now, I know better than that.
Okay,
I don't mean that disrespectfully. You guys can chew on it, and we want you to chew on it. So, Tom, realistically, when would the replacement of these happen?
As soon as you told me I could go ahead.
What is the timeline?
I don't need the
Once-
purchase, I need
let's
the
say it was
actual-
approved
Yeah.
Well,
yesterday. What
we
would
would
be
be
your
work, we'd probably work, I'd have them working the second shift, obviously during school. I couldn't have them in there during school, so we'd be doing on a second shift, which means it might take longer. The good part about it is, being controllerless, I can do a wing, I can do a school. It doesn't have to be done all at one time. It doesn't take anybody down. All the other schools would stay in the current system that we have, and we would just do maybe school at a time, a wing at a time, however we do it.
So are you talking a month or are you talking like a year?
Oh, a month maybe, at the most.
I'd say March is probably,
So, I mean, I would
no
just
later than
suggest that
March,
we-
you'd have to decide
And,
this.
And also,
And, yeah, just so we feel better about the money.
I asked Cindy some questions today. I just want the rest of the board to know
Okay.
the answers. I didn't know if you emailed me back to the last answer, because I
No.
didn't see it. So the questions I asked Cindy was the model number. I looked it up, and I think I just want to let you know you picked an excellent model. I looked around, and that's an excellent unit. I have no problem. You did good. But with that unit and with the cloud sourcing that it has, there's also yearly charges that I want to make sure the board knew about. And there's so many years are free, and then
Right.
there's so
Right, 3
I
years
didn't know
are
what
free.
I didn't get the answer back.
The first 3 years are included in this bid prices of $226,000. And then it's about, we've got an estimate right now of a little over $18,000, but we'd probably buy it in a bundle of multiple years.
Yeah, there'd definitely be discounts
Like,
involved.
yeah, volume discounts.
A year, 18,000.
Yeah,
So the board needs to.
So you
He's-
would look at
yeah, he's just quoting that as of right now, but-
Yeah.
We
For
need
1 year.
36,000.
Yeah.
If it's something where we could go 2 years, we get a discount. For working with them for 3 years, we'd get a discount.
Right.
Nothing.
What's that charge for?
That's to host it, for the support, the firmware upgrades, like anything else, like we do for Genesis or anything. You pay the yearly support, you get all the updates, you get the firmware updates, you get their support, and they host the Hive Manager, which is
And we're not
basically.
paying anything now.
It's the first 3 years are part of that price.
So that's why we're not paying anything.
Right.
correct, for 3
So
years.
for the fourth year, it'll,
I'd had to budget something in that third year in my budget to pay for it. And I would get a quote by then, and I guarantee it wouldn't be 18,000. It would definitely be less than.
And my last question that didn't come up in the green notes was, aren't all our access points worth something? They're fairly
Yeah,
new.
and part of the pricing that they got was a trade-in.
Oh, I didn't
We would
see
trade them
that.
all
that
in.
was part of
So
the
we
trade.
don't get, okay, so that includes the trade-in.
Yes.
Back all stuff.
Yes.
They take them back at
Yes.
this point, Steve.
We have to come up with we have to
Can-
go about 2
can-
years.
can-
If we go 5 years out, 3 are for free, 2 years is what you're looking at, because we probably come in
Which
5
we,
years ready to
which
start something
in
else.
3 years, we'd have to see. Maybe we do 3 more years, or maybe we
Right.
do 2, or there's a lot of, we'll have options at that
But I
point.
understand what you just said, though, was we're in that 3-year window now. So
Absolutely.
We're going to have to budget for them anyway. It might not cost the 18, but it will
Right.
cost something.
Yeah. In that third year, I'll have to write it in my budget for
Gotcha.
the support for the following, however we decide that we want to engage in it at that point. If we're really happy with it and everything's working great, we want to quote it out for 2 years, we can do 2 years.
So Cindy, I know, Mark, whether or not we do a trade-in or not, that's part of the bid. The board can't decide what it's really worth, those units, and say, we want to sell them on the free market, and what's your price? That's what
No,
it
it's
is. It is
part
what
of
it
the
is.
bid, no.
Is what it is. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
Looking at this from a number standpoint, we know technology changes constantly. So I think 3-5 years useful life for technology is probably realistic, and I trust what you're saying. So if we're looking really that we spent about $1.4 million on computers, and now we're being asked to spend it's 10% of that so that we can maximize the use of the computers, to me it makes sense. To Debbie's point, if we waited a month or two and got some other information, I think that would be helpful as well. But I think overall, it's like I wouldn't go out and buy a luxury car and then put regular gas in it if it really called for premium, because it's going to just affect the way it runs. And that's what I'm hearing you saying, that we're on a current system, but there is a better way to maximize it. And given the fact that we're doing a lot more with what we bought 3 years ago, we really need to upgrade the mechanisms in place in order that the computers can run effectively and efficiently. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to.
Exactly.
So really talking about a 10% into what we've already spent to make these things run optimally.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, it was very well put. Pay 'em later.
So the Dr. Haim just mentioned that we are not make decision tonight. So now just for the dialogue, talk about that. That's different story. I would like to question on this, just clarification. the purpose for upgrading the access point, it's to increase speed or
Yes.
increase the capacity?
Well, both, really, it does both, but definitely the speed.
Okay. The second question, because I'm work on telecommunication engineer, not daily
Okay.
life on this. The second thing is for the children access the Chromebook, right? You have access point for the for the proxy server filters. Can we some children in the class, I was told by some parents mentioned they can access different link away from the schoolwork, and also at home do something else. Do you have a way to filter the proxy server so children only can focus on the study on the school-related work on the Chromebook?
Well, they are filtered. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Are they filtered?
Yeah, the
the
proxy
Chromebooks,
server.
yes, they're definitely filtered.
So if you would type in something inappropriate, Tom would know about it virtually instantly. We don't freeze them out of. The whole purpose of this is a vessel, right? So if they go home and they connect to the Wi-Fi and they're doing research on whatever, or they're doing their Google Doc, it's impossible to say you can go to this video on YouTube, but you can't go to this one if they're both educational. So there's really no way to lock it down to the point where it's not productive, because that's really what we want kids to be, is productive and explore and to utilize technology. But anything inappropriate, home or away, Tom?
Yeah, they definitely block. We use the Go Guardian. You'll see the little lock come up if it's something that's inappropriate they shouldn't get to. In fact, we usually have the opposite. A lot of times they ask us to open certain things.
Yeah.
It's a little
Okay.
heavy on the blockage, so we end up opening them up for them.
Yeah, just want a clarification. In your proxy, so you already put a certain the website. You have a certain law.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
By law, we have to have. They're locked down.
Okay.
Nothing inappropriate.
And if there is, they usually a teacher will let me know, hey, I don't think the kids should be on this. Usually it's a game that somehow isn't blocked, and they'll tell me the kids are playing this. Can I block it? And I'll block it. But
Okay. I see. Thank you.
No
You want
problem.
clarification.
There's always back channels, but
yeah, try to find ways.
there's always
to
gonna
get
be
things, yeah.
there's always gonna be back channels.
Well, the good thing is with the Guardian, I can see exactly who's trying what, and if it feels that it's inappropriate, there'll be a little spot I can go and check and see who's trying to do what on me here, who's trying to find a way to get in some other way.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Tom, thanks for coming back.
Yeah.
I think
thank you.
January would be a perfect time.
Yeah. So I mean, to Deb's point, Sin, if we progressing through January-ish, you could have a ballpark.
When I put the budget together at the end of January, when you get it and stuff, you'll see what my estimation is of what we're going to save out of this budget and where we're going to go. But I can tell you, you're not going to get your maintenance reserve up to its full capacity.
No. At the end of the day, so why don't we let's come back. We'll give you a forecast, and I think that we didn't hear any general opposition. I think what we heard was come back with us, talk to us about where we are, where we stand, and does anybody else have any questions for Tom that we can answer?
That's great.
I may send you email tomorrow.
Oh, sure.
On the proxy server things. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely, no problem.
Thank you, Tom.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, gang.
That'll bring us to page 3, personnel matters. Robin, would you like to read?
Personnel matters. The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, head custodians, 2013-2014 school year. Number 2, head custodians, 2014-2015 school year. Number 3, head custodians, 2015-2016 school year. I so move.
Thank you, Robin. Seconded by Craig. Discussions on personnel. Anybody?
Can you just explain to the public why it's written like that, just so we understand it? It was a contract that we hadn't settled, right?
Yes.
This one pushed out there, like, why are they seeing it 3 times and they go up every year? It's just-
Yes, there are 3 years. We had just settled this contract. The contract is for a 5-year contract. And the purpose of it is that we went back to 13-14, 14-15, those years are done, and now we're doing 15-16, and then 17 and 18.
Thank you, Cindy. Any other questions or discussion? Cindy, please call the roll.
Mrs. Matos.
Yes.
Mrs. Dean, sorry. Mrs. Ennie.
Yes.
Mrs. Lou Riddell.
Yeah.
Mrs. Wolf?
I abstain from all. 'cause I-
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Yes.
And Mr. Lalansky?
Yes. That'll bring us to page 6, Policy Development and Community Relations. Greg?
Policy Development, Community Relations Matters, the Superintendent of Schools submits the following resolution for approval. 1 second reading. I so move.
Thank you. Seconded by Debbie. Discussion on second reading.
I have a question. Shouldn't we be able to police ourselves?
Sure. Yeah.
So,
Go ahead. You want to?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
that's my
So-
thought anyway, but yeah.
Keep going, Dara, that's something.
Well, I didn't.
Shouldn't we be able to police
Police ourselves.
ourselves?
should we
Oh,
be
yeah.
able to police
Yeah, well,
ourselves
my
to
concern
know?
with this policy is it becomes permanent, right? And then
Well, to
and I want to make sure the public always has a chance to speak. And sometimes our public sessions have been past 11 o'clock at night, the second public session. And we can always police ourselves at any point. Any board member could ask to adjourn the meeting because of time, and someone seconds it, and we all vote on it. I just don't want to be the person to put into place a future board one day being able to say it's 11 o'clock, we're going home, sorry, we didn't get a chance to talk.
Right, I understand that, but I mean, sometimes some other parts do go on for a long time, but I do think that we should be able to police ourselves, and I agree, we shouldn't cut the public off at any time.
Agreed.
Anybody else? Cindy, call the roll.
Mrs. Wolf?
Wait, let me just, I'm sorry, I was,
It's the-
I'll skip you and I'll come back to you. How's
okay.
that? Mrs.
Yeah,
Dean?
sorry.
No.
Mrs. Ennie?
No.
Mrs. Lou Riddell?
Sorry.
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf?
Yes.
Mrs. Matos?
No.
Mr. Marshall?
No.
Mr. Lalansky?
No.
Motion does not carry.
Thank you. That'll bring us to old business.
Sorry.
Anybody have any old business? Anybody have any new business? Go ahead. You can start with that. Go ahead, make the speech. You did the last one, do this one.
Yeah.
Go for it, Debbie. 8th grade winter concert, memorials tomorrow. My
Okay.
baby's only in one section.
Thursday, not tomorrow.
Thursday.
Thursday.
Sorry, I've been doing that all day.
Folks, I just have a little,
Thursday at 7 o'clock.
thank you. Anybody should go to concerts. Everybody knows it's great. No, middle has, I think middle's
Mills tomorrow.
tomorrow,
tomorrow.
correct?
Yes.
Middle's is tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll be at memorials on Thursday.
Yeah, tomorrow and Thursday. I just want to bring up real quick, only because I bumped into somebody that was heading down, actually, the New Jersey school boards, and it was, I was an insurance guy. And it popped in my mind, because I bumped into an insurance guy, is that we haven't talked about really, insurance is our biggest number, and I mentioned this to Dr. Hibbs. Insurance is our biggest number we have, pretty much, for our different associations for us, our employees. And we haven't really gone out RFP since I remember being here for insurance, I don't know, want to call them consultant.
I think we did go out.
Yeah, we did.
We did
How
go
long
out.
ago?
Maybe, we were,
3 years ago.
how many?
3.
Yeah, I knew we
Okay,
had.
so I don't know if the board wants to entertain again, because going out again, because I don't, sometimes if you get the same person over and over again, you may not, I don't always get the same price. Competition is good. I just wanted to bring that up on the new business, how the board felt about it.
Any new news on the Cadillac? Or is that still a
No,
bad?
I actually I have a webinar tomorrow
Okay.
about it. Yeah, and
Yes.
it's up in the air about whether or not we're going to pay it, they're going to pay it.
So there's no
It's-
news
that
yet.
there-
On the
there's
Cadillac
no
tax?
news.
Is that what
Yeah,
you're
the
saying?
Cadillac tax.
That's going to be fine.
I just 2 things about, I have no problem going out for bid, but the thing about it is that, A, you've got to make sure it's apples and apples. Number 2 is that the last time we went out, if you may recall, is that we had to look on the fact of what the price was based on if we were outside with an outside company versus with state health benefits. So that's also, the other thing is, I will say, Brown & Brown has been extremely helpful with us. We probably are, I know we are for a fact, we're ahead of the game for all the ACA reporting that has to be done for all our employees. They got us started on it back in March and April on it. What I don't know how familiar any of you are with this. Mike, you might know because of being a business owner, but I will tell you this thing is a monster nightmare of what we have to do to report for all of our employees. You think about, we have 800 employees, and the reporting we have to do, they have to get another, not only their W-2, but there's another document that has to be given to them too, based on all their their benefits they receive from us. And we started on very early, and he started with all of us, getting us onto this and stuff. But again, I have no qualms going back out.
I agree with you 1,000%. What you said was just that. In my thinking, it's been 3 years, and I want to make sure, as a board, we're doing our due diligence to
Absolutely.
get absolutely best pricing for the
And
public.
if Brown and Brown is the best one, and
And again, it comes back to you and the recommendation of all those things you just said.
Yeah. They have held our hand through this. I've got to tell you, this thing has not been fun.
it doesn't cost us anything to go out for RFP.
No, and you don't have to
me-
change.
Yeah, to me, I think it's a great idea, Mike. Thanks for bringing it
When are we going to find out about the Cadillac
Okay.
tax? Do you know, is there a deadline on that?
You're
or-
not, it doesn't go into effect until 18.
January of 18.
So, yeah, so, I think we're going to see a lot of stuff is going to
There's no
start flying.
I think once they figure it out, they'll tell us.
All right, so
And
Well, no.
sometimes they're
Well,
like,
no.
it's like, we'll find out in August of something that's going to be implemented in,
Oh,
yeah, so, it's like shooting darts.
all right, so Mr. Zinnemer said we need a motion, so I will make a motion to go out to RFP for
We've never
insurance
done that.
consultant. Is that
They
what it's
just tell me to do it, and I do
Be
it.
done by motion.
Motion.
Really?
Yes.
Yes.
I
Motion, Mike.
second it.
We second it.
I agree with Mark.
Okay. So, call the roll.
Hold on.
Craig Bisman.
Who made the motion?
I made the
Mike
motion.
made the motion, Mr. Marshall seconded.
Oh, they come with angel songs.
The Angels are voting.
The angel
The one
seconded
time I
it.
didn't bring it, there was a tornado in my backyard, literally.
And you didn't answer the phone.
I'm not kidding.
In your front yard.
And your phone
No,
wasn't
back.
here.
It was
That's
back.
when your phone wasn't here.
Yep. Yep. I'll deal with the chirp because my wife has really not been happy with me since.
Take the chirp. We'll accept the chirp.
Took the roof off the house.
Okay. Okay.
We have to vote on the motion.
No, I had to write it first.
Oh, you said okay, I think we're done.
She's
It's good, but
She's
she's not
verbal.
good.
I mean, I went through all this effort to second it.
That's music played.
Mrs. Matos,
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf,
Yes.
Mrs. Dean,
Yes.
Mrs. Ennie. Yes. Mrs. Lou Riddell.
Yes.
Mr. Marshall.
Yes.
Mr. Lalansky.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great.
Anybody else have any new business?
Next Wednesday too, the tree lighting is from 6 to 7, which will roll right into middle 7th and 8th grade band concert. So I'm going to go to both. I think it'll be a great thing.
There was also,
Go ahead.
isn't there something for Alliance tomorrow morning?
There's a speaker, but I didn't write down what it was.
It's about dealing with kids that push your buttons.
Push your buttons.
Button pushers.
With
Button
Dr.
pushers
Kramer.
with Dr. Kramer and Dr. Asher
Run-
No.
Yeah.
Not tomorrow is Asher Schultz.
No, I think it was an outside speaker.
The rec, oh, it was an outside speaker?
Yes.
At the rec center, Joanne.
What time?
I want to say maybe 9:30? It should be on the Marlboro Alliance
No, I'm sorry.
website.
9:15.
9:15.
I have a student matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge that Mrs. Rosenwald sent us sent me an email to the board for tonight's meeting, the correspondence, and just want to acknowledge that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else has new business? Bring us to our final public session open to any item. Any member of the public wish to address the board, please come forward.
It's the day after meeting
Phew.
after Thanksgiving.
Oh, bless you.
Thank
Bless
you.
you.
Sneezed on the truth.
I sneezed on the truth, right?
Just need
Laura
Daniel.
Labry, 88 Cannon
You
Drive.
can take that out.
Okay, rather not. I keep it there.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you. Good.
What'd she say?
Good evening. Thank you, board members, for volunteering your time. And I will also thank the two who are moving on. Thank you very much. So, discouraged. Discouraged is the best word I can use for how I feel as a parent and volunteer in the school district for the past year or so. At the October MMS PTO meeting, the topic of field trips was discussed. Parents in attendance, including myself, made our opinions clear when the principal promoted the idea of virtual field trips as a cost-saving measure. However, at the November Dugan PTA meeting, a technology supervisor who was presenting also mentioned virtual field trips as something we can use Google for. At the November president's meeting, the topic of homework was on the agenda. The PTA and PTO presidents voiced our concerns about the amount of homework and tests. These are the same concerns we've been voicing for over a year. The school workload, just for a third grader I'm going to talk about tonight, in this district includes, at a minimum, 10 tests, 12 quizzes, 6 CAs, and 14 supplementals each marking period. Each marking period. That doesn't include Park or COGAT. 45 to 60 minutes of daily homework is the guideline for third grade, but that excludes independent reading and online programs such as ST Math or Achieve 3000 or Study Island, as well as the district policy of 60 minutes of typing training per week. The time for extracurricular activities, religious education, and just plain old downtime, important aspects to the life of an 8-year-old, is almost impossible to find. Virtual field trips, too much testing, you can understand why I'm discouraged. However, on November 25th, I was more than discouraged. I was angry. My third grader was encouraged to wear red, white, and blue for the Veterans Day Assembly. Dugan proudly tweeted about it on November 25th, quote, celebrating the troops, hashtag Veterans Day. Veterans Day is a federal holiday celebrated on November 11th. Have we really gotten to a point in our district that we can't afford to lose 40 minutes of class time to have a Veterans Day Assembly on Veterans Day? In grade 3 social studies, the students learn the following, and I have to quote it: the school board makes the rules for the community schools. The citizens elect the members of the school board. The superintendent of schools carries out rules made by the school board. Are the 7 of you really making these rules? Are you making rules where 8-year-olds are overstressed with too many tests, quizzes, and homework? Are the 7 of you making rules where virtual field trips might eventually take the place of actual real-life experiences? Are you really making rules where Veterans Day needs to be observed on November 25th because it's more convenient to celebrate it on a one-session day during the week of Thanksgiving? If this is not your vision for our students, please explain why you are allowing this emphasis on tests and quizzes to limit the amount of time our children are given to have real-world experiences such as Veterans Day. There is more to educating our children than tests and quizzes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
Anyone else from the public wish to address the board on any item? Okay, seeing none, Dr. Hibbs, want to?
Okay, as far as Veterans Day, Laura, all the things that you're discussing, they really, this board did not condone a move of Veterans Day, nor did I. To be honest, I just learned about it right now. I had no idea that it was celebrated on November 25th and not on Veterans Day.
Was there some on November? We did do Veterans Day celebrations in some schools on that day.
We absolutely did. I'd have to look into that. And honestly, it came to me right now in the meeting. When you look at a grade book, and some people will firmly disagree with me on this, and it's a respectful disagreement, which I'm fine with. In the past, you'd have a grade book that would have 5 grades in it. That's not okay. Just not okay. So we went from 5 to 10. With that, we moved the common assessments out of the testing bucket because that was the complaint that was heard last year, that the common assessments were carrying a huge, heavy weight. So last year, we really tried to be responsive to not only the community, but the PTA presidents and everyone that really wanted to talk about some of the changes that needed to be made here. I.e., we really don't like midterms and finals. We listened. We developed some end-of-unit assessments. As far as the regulation goes, and this was brought to me at the PTA, and I agree that if students are being required in our youngest grades to have 45 minutes to 60, I don't even love that, to be honest with you. And then in addition, the online programs and the reading was outside of that, along with any keyboarding or anything else that might be given. It's too much. It's way too much. So what I did is that I tasked my administrators, my principals, going back and actually ascertaining what's happening district-wide. Because I can't just take one parent's complaint as this is what's happening across the district. I have to do my due diligence and dig in. But what I did say to my principals in that meeting, and they will tell you if you ask them, was you need to keep a really good eye, because if we're assigning an hour
and then we're piling on an extra hour worth of reading and online programs that doesn't even include studying sometimes. So if our little ones are going home in 3rd and 4th grade with 2.5 hours, it's too much. So what I've said before, and I'll say again, is that I agree. If kids are going home with 2.5 hours in 3rd and 4th grade, that's insane. It literally is insane. And we need to do a better job of prioritizing how much work we're giving, and then ensuring that what we're giving is actually beneficial. So I've already said that I would look into that, and I 100% am. It's not as simple as just me hitting the brakes on a car. It's over a 5,000 child school district. So the first thing is to do due diligence. The second is to look at possible changes. The regulation falls under my purview, an administrative purview, so I can at any point in time unilaterally change that and give different directives. And if I find out that's systemic, I certainly will. But I do want to involve the teachers in that discussion, because I think that would be most fair, as honestly I don't assign much homework anymore. I can speak very intelligently on what homework should be. Homework should be something that not only directly reinforces, but is collaborative and helps a child grow. I can tell you that in the Hibbs house, when I come home with or when any of my children come home with the ditto, which has both sides the same, I'm very upset and appalled. If you want to know if my child can multiply a decimal, you can have 2 problems. You don't need 6, you don't need 16. But we're going to engage in that discussion, and we're going to make sure that my vision would be that it would be all-inclusive, period. I.e., if we're going to give 45 minutes, it needs to be 45 minutes. And it's not 45 minutes, but you have to read for half an hour, but you have to do keyboarding, you have to do this. Because I understand that makes a child feel piled on. And I have 3 children. I get it. We do karate, and we do singing lessons, and we go to CCD. I'm not Catholic, but I try to play one on TV. So I hear you 100%, and you have my word as a father and your superintendent that I will make sure that we're doing one right by our kids, and if we're not, at any point in time, I make good changes. So you have my word. As far as the assessments go, when you really look at this, and written expression is probably the outlier, you really went from sometimes 3 assessments over a marking period at the low end to 5 being in the middle, and then you had other teachers that went on the higher end. It was really all over the place, but in my opinion, the low was just too low. So we convened a committee, and we collaboratively made a decision. I didn't unilaterally change it. There was at least 11 people on that committee, I think, in addition to me, who really looked at that. And when you lay it out and say it's X number of tests, sure, it is. But you are talking about all the core subjects. You really are. But what we will do 100% is that every building has a school improvement panel. It's called our SCIP. And what happens is that any teacher that has a concern will funnel through that SCIP to get to our district grading committee. And then we will hear all of those at the end of the year, and we'll weigh out how our year went, and then we will make changes accordingly if changes do need to be made. The supplemental bucket was new. It wasn't a new concept that a teacher could give a grade at any time, but it was new in Marlboro. But the simple fact of the matter was, last year, with 5 grades and one of them being a test that was worth 60% of the grade, you had some kids that really couldn't recover from that. So we do try to be responsive. We'll never make everybody happy, and I'm not saying that about your question, because last year it was the common assessments are worth too much. The kids take the common assessments. There's a discrepancy between the grade point average and the common assessment. So we really tried to put that into its own bucket. We eliminated the midterms and the finals, and really try to be more responsive by having an end of marking period assessment. So we do try to be responsive. So as far as field trips go, because I think I was actually at that meeting where Mrs. Nowacki mentioned virtual field trips. I'm going to respectfully disagree in that a virtual field trip can be learning. It can have learning. It can be inventive. It can be fun. Is it the same as going on a field trip? No, 100% no. And I think that when Mrs. Nowacki was asked this question, at middle school, it's really hard because to have the kids back in time for a normal dismissal
At middle school, it's really hard because we start so early and we don't end late. That is a consideration. And any place I've ever been, this is not my first district. Middle school field trips, absolutely, they curtail as you climb up the ranks. And by the time you get to high school, I think I saw Phantom of the Opera in high school and went to Disney World. I think that's really it. They really stop having field trips. Doesn't mean that we can't have field trips. It just means that we don't have as many. But I do know that I have spoken to the principals about field trips because that's been brought to me as well, and I always bring them on. And I've charged the principals with thinking about field trips for inclusion in the 16-17 budget. And as far as Veterans Day, I would have to look and see why that occurred. I can't speak on it right now.
Let me just respond to back up what the superintendent's saying. What you've spoken of is the purview of the superintendent. Mark gives a speech to us every year. He'll give it again in January when we have our reorg, reminding the board of their place in the world, pretty much.
Policy making, planning, and appraisal.
Okay.
But can we ask why that was read to the students? Do you know why that would be read to the students, that the board makes these rules, that they're following, and that everything, it made it sound like everything they're doing is we're making them do all that?
I missed the part that it was read. So
Social studies.
I don't even know the textbook is on handout.
handout.
On the study guide. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I have it.
I would love to see
I
it.
misunderstood. I thought you were just reading it
No,
to
she
us.
was saying.
No,
your
she
son
was
got
saying
that.
it's read to the
Right.
students. She quoted it, and I'd like to know why that's being quoted to an 8-year-old.
Yeah, I didn't realize.
It's like they're passing the buck.
It was like the citizens.
When they study that. Curriculum, isn't it? It should not be in there.
I find that's not really.
It's not our job.
It's not our job.
We'd be crossing the line if we were doing that.
We'd be
Getting that
brought
to
up
people,
on
yeah.
ethics charges if we did
know,
all those things.
So no, I mean, nobody here condones a child being piled on or Veterans Day not happening on Veterans Day. I'd have to look into why that occurred. I'm not going to tell you that I know everything, and anybody that would be a bold-faced liar. There are things that happen around me, and then we have to address things.
When my kids were in elementary school, just to let you know, we didn't have Veterans Day on Veterans Day
Okay.
after a while because all the veterans were busy.
Okay.
They were at their own parades, they were with their families, they were
Okay.
doing, so.
That could be
I don't know if
response.
it was a school principal who took it upon themselves to change it to whatever works.
There might be a great
But
reason.
that's what I was told
Yeah.
back then, just to let you know.
Did you
Then they should have
did you reach out to the
acknowledged that.
principal to ask?
I did reach out to people. Mrs. Pelletier.
Yeah. No.
Can she
Well,
sign
it's
in
supposed
again?
to, so.
Yeah, I'm
Can she sign in again?
Mrs. Pelletier.
You're going to have to come up
Yeah.
to the
Come
mic
up to
because
the
it's
mic,
not going to
yeah.
be picked up.
Well, we need the.
Say your name. Say your name again.
Laura Lavery, 88 Kennedy Drive. Debbie, I'm not firsthand at what happens at Dugan, but as a parent who's gone through this 3 times, what I believe happens is the music teacher, who's Mrs. Pelletier, she does stuff with the 4th and 5th graders. I don't believe they have outside people in. Like at MMS, they had speakers, and it was fantastic, and the orchestra, the band, and everybody's involved. This is much smaller, and it's mainly for the 4th and 5th graders. My third grader in his class just happened to be part of it because they were supposed to have music that day, and so they just got lucky. But if any of you follow the Dugan Twitter account, you can pull it up right now, and you'll see it from November 25th. But I did ask, and I was told by Mrs. Pelletier that she was ready to go, and she could have done it on November 11th. So she just, was told to do it on the 25th.
Thank you.
And I just want to say one thing on virtual field trips. When I was teaching in a district, I did a virtual field trip. It was one of the best trips my kids ever went on. So there are definitely benefits, but I do agree that field trips are huge and that we need to go on real ones also.
Well, do they go at the elementary level?
Absolutely.
You still have field trips at the elementary level? It is the principal's,
Yes, there are.
it's at the principal's discretion,
It
right?
is. We do.
So it's not the board, it's not even you.
No,
It's the
I-
principals of each school making that decision.
They do.
And you've
Yes.
charged them with trying to put it
we
back in their
approve
budget.
I have.
And we've approved it. I mean, we will approve if they put it in their
Parents
budget.
pay for the field trips, we do not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure parents would be willing to do
Yeah, but
that.
I just wanted to clarify
Right.
that it's not in our
We just
budget.
approve that if they ask to go,
Correct.
but it's
That's
the
correct.
Yes.
principals
I asked
that
them to talk
decide.
about planning.
Right.
Not even Dr. Hibbs.
Yeah.
But they're huge. They're so important for kids to get that experience. I feel.
Yeah, that's
think that's right.
that's
There
the
are field
highlight
trips.
for year for elementary.
There absolutely are field trips.
Yeah.
I don't micromanage field trips. I gotta be
think
honest.
so too, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to read the executive session resolution. Be resolved in accordance with provisions of Open Public Meetings Act, the Marlborough Township Board of Education shall conduct a closed executive session pursuant to personal legal exceptions prescribed by NJSA 10:4-12, purpose discussing student matter and matters of attorney-client privilege. Anticipated length of time of executive session will be 15 minutes, as action will not be taken in public session after the executive session. Be further resolved in the minutes, executive session will release for need for confidentiality in accordance with NJSA 10:4-12, no longer applies. That is seconded by Craig. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? Okay, I will make a motion to go into executive session.
Second, yes.
Second by Victoria. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, we are going into executive session.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thanks for